Hey guys, this is Unnoticed Shadow, and I decided to start doing competitive guides for Pokemon both for Smogon 6v6 singles and VGC, which will be 2014, so doubles. The first one I'm going to look at today is Gengar, basically because he's been my favorite Pokemon since Gen 1, except for Gyarados, who's just a Bamf, but I'll get along to him later because I'm still learning a lot about Gyarados in VGC. So, Gengar. His typing is pretty good. His Ghost typing gives him strong neutral coverage. It's only resisted by Dark types. And basically he's only weak to Dark types and other Ghosts. It also gives an immunity to normal and fighting type attacks, giving him a lot of potential to switch in. His Poison typing is actually very strong defensively, and it works really well with his Ghost typing. It makes him resistant to Bug, Fairy, Fighting, and Grass, but he's immune to Fighting anyway, as well as other Poison types. Offensively, it adds solid super effective coverage against Fairies and Grass types. It also means that he's basically very offensive in both his stabs as they cover different weaknesses. Gengar is weak to Ghost, Psychic, and Dark type attacks, totaled, but manages to resist Grass, Fairy, Poison, and Bug type attacks. He has a double resistance to Poison and Bug, meaning he can switch into things like Venusaur's Sludge Bomb really easily, or anything using U-turn he can take really well. Having a... let's see... Gengar also has immunity to Fighting type and Normal type, thanks to his Ghost typing, and an immunity to otherwise super effective Ground type attacks from its ability Levitate. This isn't his ability when he Mega Evolves, so it's definitely something you want to keep track of. Now, let's have a look at their base stats. Gengar's base stats are 60 in health, 65 in attack, 60 in defense, so very sort of low, weak there. But he has 130 special attack, making him one of the high tier special attackers, only beaten by Chandelure for Ghost types. He has 75 special defense, which is getting a little bit better, and 110 speed. So you're starting to see these Glass Cannon already. Now, in Mega Gengar, he's got 60 HP, because none of the HPs change when they Mega Evolve, 65 attack, 80 defense, which is a bit better, 170 attack, making him just a bit shy of Mega Charizard. Why? His special defense goes up to 95, which is also a bit better. It's getting along to Rotom lines. He's got a bit more HP and a bit less defense, special defense than your standard Rotoms. And his speed goes up to 130, so teetering along top speeders like Aerodactyl and Jolteon. So, let's see. Common items held by Gengar, because Mega Gengar is obviously just going to hold the Mega Stone, is Black Sludge, which will heal a 16th of his health every turn. We've got Choice Specs, however it does lock him into the first move. It boosts that really good special attack by an extra stage. So one stack, it's like you received a Calm Mind, minus the special defense of course. Life Orb gives him a 30% damage boost and 10% recoil for every move that damages the target, so that doesn't include moves that are deflected by Protect or moves that miss, but it also doesn't affect moves like Will-O-Wisp, which only burn, even though they do cause damage through the burn. He also holds Focus Sash a lot of the time because he is very frail, so he can switch into one Pokemon. So, for example, he can switch in, or you can have Alakazam switch in on him, and Alakazam will go first, so he'll get hit by Psychic, be brought down to the Sash, and then take out Alakazam with the Shadow Ball. Now, let's see. Here's his move pool. His common move pool is, like I said, offensively we have Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Dark Pulse, and Dream Eater. And those are reasonably common. Dream Eater not so much, unless they're using a very sleep-based team where he's also running Hypnosis, which I haven't marked on here because it's terrible. Just get someone else to put them to sleep. Use Among Us, use Breloom, anyone really. Non-offensively, some common moves on him are Toxic, Taunt, Torment, those last two being very common in VGC, Disable, and Substitute, those two being very common in Smogon. Now, here's some uncommon moves I found for him. Now, so we have offensively, you have Thunderbolt, which is actually, it's the most common on here, followed by Dazzling Gleam, and then moves that, Focus Blast is also pretty common actually. I probably should have put that up to the other area. It really helps with his Dark type weakness. But I tend to use, I think Dazzling Gleam does a better job because of the accuracy. But uncommon moves, incredibly uncommon moves I find are Energy Ball, Psychic, Hex, and Venoshock. Now those last two seem a little odd because they're only 65 base power. They are both stabs, and if the Pokemon has a status, so if they're burnt or poisoned, then it does double damage. So it really becomes powerful if you run a status-based team, which I have a build for later on that we'll talk about. Now, in terms of non-direct damage moves, well, except for one on this list, we have Pain Split, Will-O-Wisp, Protect, which is good for VGC. Like, you cannot go wrong with Protect. Spite, Mean Look, Infestation, and Perish Song. Now, Perish Song seems odd. A lot of people would pair it up with Mean Look, but of course Mega Gengar gets Shadow Tag, which means Pokemon, while he's on the field, can't switch out, which means he runs Perish Trap teams typically. In fact, that's really all I've seen Mega Gengar do when I was at VGC this year. Now, his natures and EVs, you're pretty much going to run your standard Glass Cannon. So that's 252 special attack, 252 speed, 4 hit points. You can chuck it in special defense. I believe it can help with certain hits. You don't want to chuck it in defense at all because why bother? It's already a sunken ship. I recommend Timid, but some people run Modest. I guess that's if they run Tailwind support or lots of Thunder Waving, like Thunder Wave on Ferrothorn or Gyarados in VGC or on Meowstic in singles. But apart from that, Timid is what I'd recommend. Now, here's his speed tiering. Faster threats than him, and these are Pokemon that can KO him in pretty much one hit, are Alakazam, Greninja, Aerodactyl, Crocodile. These are all with Scarfed or with one speed boost. So Crocodile with the Scarf, Tyranitar if he's got enough of Dragon Dance or with the Scarf, Heracross with the Scarf, and Hydreigon with the Scarf. Slower targets, which are ones that you're kind of going to want to try and hit. Now, these aren't all one-hit KOs, but a lot of them can be taken down 80% thereabouts. As Mianshao, who's just slower, Garchomp, who's just slower, Mega Metacham, Kingdra, Crocodile, without a Scarf or without anything like that, because there's a couple of good moves against him, and Dragonite. With Dragonite, you'd probably want to break his multi-scale first, though, because otherwise you're just going to waste your Gengar. Now, here are some damage calculations. Now, I like running Gengar with Expert Belt, because it basically, as long as that hit is super effective, he can choose whatever move he wants, he doesn't take recoil damage, and he does almost as much damage as Mega Gengar. There's literally, it's, I'll tell you the difference with the first one. So 252 special attack, Expert Belt Gengar, and this is Timid, using Dazzling Gleam against Hydreigon, does 141.8 to 166.7 damage, guaranteed OHKO. Dazzling Gleam on Mega Gengar only does 142.7 thereabouts, and then maxing out at 168 thereabouts. So basically, as long as you have a super effective move, he's almost as powerful as regular Gengar. Mega Gengar. So, we have 252 special attack, Expert Belt Gengar, you know, same thing. Energy Ball against Rotom Wash does 53 to 63% damage, to it KOing even after Leftovers recovery. Of course, with the Citrus Berry, I believe that pushes it up to a 3-hit KO. So, for all you VGC guys out there. Gengar's Energy Ball against Mamoswine is guaranteed to hit KO, doing 83 to 98% damage. So if you can get even the tiniest hit on that Mamoswine, you can knock him out of the game. And that means that you can actually open yourself up to a Perish Trap team with Mega Gengar, so long as you stay Gengar enough to get that Energy Ball off. Gengar's Psychic against Mega Venusaur is a guaranteed 2-hit KO after Leftovers. Is a guaranteed 2-hit KO, doing 55 to 65% damage. And Gengar's Shadow Ball against an Aegislash is 68 to 80% guaranteed. And that's 2-hit KO after Leftovers recovery as well, despite the fact that, you know, he's going to King Shield a ton. But you do want to watch out for that Shadow Sneak, though. So maybe if you can protect and disable, that would be pretty amazing. So, I'm going to cover builds for these guys, starting with Smogon 66 and then going on to VGC doubles. Mega Gengar is banned from all Smogon tiers except Ubers. I don't know Ubers well enough. I'm not really interested in Ubers, so I'm not going to do anything like that. So I'm just going to purely focus on OU builds for Smogon. So I'm going to talk about Hyper Offensive Disabler. This guy, basically, his tactic is he goes out, preferably forcing a switch, but otherwise whatever. You protect against a slower target. So let's say, for example, Crocodile goes for Crunch. You protect, you disable that move, and then you're free to hit him with whatever you want. I typically recommend that you use Shadow Ball, and then for that good neutral coverage, and then either Sludge Bomb or Thunderbolt. Now, against my Crocodile idea, this doesn't work amazingly well. I mean, you could switch Thunderbolt out for Energy Ball or Dazzling Gleam as well, because I do know that Shadow Ball and Dazzling Gleam gives you perfect neutral coverage, which is why I like it. But you know, this is the standard set. It also means that he can hit things like Starmie if they bring in a Rapid Spin or anything like that. And Sludge Bomb's good for just any fairy, really. I believe he almost 2-hit KO. Actually, with this build, he does 2-hit KO Xerneas, and that's pretty good. Here's just a straight up offensive disabler. Now, instead of running Expert Belt, he's going to run Black Sludge to basically recover health over time. Now, you want to bring him in to force the switch, because Gengar isn't something you want taking a hit. And then you want to run Substitute first off, and then basically anything that tries to break your Substitute. If you say Venusaur goes for, oh, let's say it has a weird move. Let's say it has Solar Beam and there's Sun Up. Mega Venusaur has Solar Beam and there's Sun Up. You can disable that. That means that you can then start knocking that Venusaur down with Shadow Ball. Its only moves then are going to be resisted. Solar Beam's resisted, but it's a very hard-hitting move. Here's a straight-up offensive. This isn't any real tricks or anything. So basically you're starting to see that you're just always going to run Shadow Ball, because Ghost is probably the best offensive type, given that it only has one type that resists it, even though there's only 1 or 2 types it's super effective against. You're going to run... Now, I've got these next 2 move slots are in brackets of 3. I recommend them going together. So Sludge Bomb and Focus Blast, Thunderbolt and Energy Ball, Dazzling Gleam and Psychic. They tend to give you the best coverage. However, if you're finding that maybe your team needs Sludge Bomb and Energy Ball because you're having trouble against fairies, but you're also having trouble against Rotom, then that's absolutely cool. You know, this is just my suggestions for maximum coverage, but Gengar is something you want to kind of tailor to your team rather than have your team tailored around him. It's actually very versatile, which is really good. And then either go for Protect or Dark Pulse. Protect probably if you're going to, I don't know, try and be tricky, or if you want to scout. For example, a lot of Pokemon will run Dark-type moves or Psychic-type moves that they normally wouldn't, or even hidden powers, so you can check that and find out what's going on with that. Now, this is our support / status abuser. This is a guy that I thought up, I tested him out, and he did really well, actually. I really enjoyed using him. So you're gonna go out, force the switch, set up your Substitute, and from here, if they bring in a physical attacker, you want to do Will-O-Wisp, otherwise you want to do Toxic, because Toxic will do more damage over time, but Will-O-Wisp will cut that attack in half, which can keep your Substitute up longer. If it's a Pokemon that, let's say they don't switch out straight away and you have an advantage against them anyway, you can go for Infestation. Now, Infestation with a Grip Claw is actually going to keep them in and taking 1/8 damage, or is it 1/16? It changed this generation to from one to the other. It'll keep them in with Grip Claw for 7 turns, meaning that they're basically, as long as they take 1 other hit, they're in there until they die. And from there, you can start Will-O-Wisping, Toxicking, and then once that's happened, you can abuse Hex or Venoshock. They're both really powerful once you get that status on them, as well as basically, they're really powerful when they have status, as well as them both being Gengar's main stabs. And Hex is probably what I'd recommend more, but obviously tailor it to your team. Now, we're going to look at a VGC build for Gengar here. Here we have a straight up offensive one. This is actually the build that I used in VGC, and he just dominated. It was amazing. He was my MVP, pretty much, except for possibly my Tyranitar. Same build as before. I ran him with an Expert Belt. You can use Life Orb. I prefer Expert Belt. I ran him with Protect, Energy Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Shadow Ball. Now, originally I had Taunt instead of Energy Ball, but I ended up switching it out because of how common Rotom Wash is, as well as a couple of other guys like Lantern, basically because they only have the one weakness. So Gengar did really well against those guys. He dominated, he switched, he tricked everyone. into thinking what he was. A lot of people tried to call him out as a Perish Trap Gengar, and in the end, he just ran it. He just ran an expert belt. Here's another one that I built for VGC that tested pretty well. He ran Will-O-Wisp, Hex, Dazzling Gleam, and Protect. This basically helped because he was able to cripple physical attackers to keep Ludicolo alive, as Ludicolo basically handles everything that he doesn't. He then had Protect, Dazzling Gleam, which helped against dragons, especially Hydreigon, which he can cause a lot of trouble if you don't have a move specifically for him. And then Hex was amazing once I managed to get those burns out. He even managed to pummel down a Mega Venusaur with Amnesia at one point. So I was proud of him, but I ended up going with the offensive set. Now, here's Mega Gengar. This is his standard set. This is his Perish Trap team. He's usually run alongside with Gothitelle in the back, an Aron with Endeavor, because it's actually kind of amusing to watch. So he'd run, he'd be carrying Gengarite, obviously. He'd run Protect, Perish Song, Shadow Ball, and then on offensive move, or possibly Taunt. However, I find that he'd work better with offensive moves. So Sludge Bomb, Dazzling Gleam, or Energy Ball are my recommendations to go along with Shadow Ball. Dazzling Gleam I'd probably recommend more than anything else, just because it does give you that perfect neutral coverage, and it helps boost up your super effective. So you bring him out first turn, Mega Evolve, and go for the Perish Song, or Mega Evolve and Protect. It depends what they have out on the field against you. If you feel it's safe to go for the Perish Song straight away, then brilliant. He'd usually be paired with Amoonguss so that the Rage Powder spikes, and then you don't have to worry about Gengar getting hit during the Perish Song. Then you can Protect, switching Gothitelle at the same turn, and then switch Gengar out, and then no one dies on your team, but they're still stuck because Gothitelle also has Shadow Tag. And I saw really good applications of that during VGC. I was really impressed. I thought that it was sort of gimmicky because every time I've seen one, I've just kind of predicted and taken him out. It wasn't anything I couldn't handle, and I'll tell you how to counter this later on in the video. Let's see. Here we go. So this is an offensive one. This is actually going to be a really good bait to call if you want to make a sort of like a in-team preview. They're like, oh god, a Perish Trap team. And then you can kind of predict what Pokemon they'll bring out. So for example, any ground type will demolish Gengar's Perish Trap teams. So it means that you can tailor it around what they'll choose. So like if you see Mamoswine, for example, they're totally bringing that turn one. Apart from that, though, we've got... so this one's kind of there to predict that and then go ahead and demolish everyone else. So we got Shadow Ball and Dazzling Gleam, which are definitely, you need to bring those. Those are amazing. Then Energy Ball, but if you already have, say, a grass type, handling everything, like if you have like Ludicolo, Venusaur, Breloom's not legal this gen in VGC, I believe. So I believe Thunderbolt might work a bit better. And then just Protect, because always Protect. It'll mean that you can bring in Garchomp, for example, and you can start spamming Earthquake. Now, here's some top counters for Gengar, and this is for Mega Gengar as well. So you want to look out for anyone using Sucker Punch, mainly Toxicroak, Mawile, and Bisharp, as they almost always carry Sucker Punch. Priority users are also going to demolish you because you don't have any protection from priority moves except for Protect, as well as the fact that you really don't have any priority moves either. So you want to look out for Iga Slash, you want to look out for Mega Manat, and you want to look out for Scizor. Because they're just basically going to mess you up. And no. Yes. Also, Drapion. Drapion is an amazing Gengar counter. He actually can't be hit for anything super effectively that Gengar carries. And he has a super effective stab against Gengar in Crunch. So I really can't underestimate him. Whenever I'm going up against him, that is, I always switch out Gengar and bring in Garchomp, something like that. Now, for a Perish Trap counter, any of these guys will do. What I will guarantee you, and this is actually something that I took the time to record, every Perish Trap Gengar Mega Evolves on the first turn. That's because they don't want you switching anyone around after you realize. I've always started off with Mamoswine, and they always go for the Perish Trap, the Perish Song on the first turn. Mamoswine will then Earthquake and KO Gengar, or Tyranitar will then Earthquake, or Garchomp will then, yeah, you know, you get it. Anything with Earthquake basically demolishes Gengar incredibly easily, and that's the best way around Perish Trap teams. So can we please stop complaining about them, because, dear God, it's not that hard. I've only lost to a Perish Trap team once, and then I added Mamoswine to my team specifically because I needed Ice Shard and I needed Earthquake. Anyway, this wraps up my guide on Gengar. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys learned something about pretty much my favorite ghost type, and I feel that he's probably the best ghost in VGC at the moment. Despite how many people love Chandelure. I love him too, but Jesus Christ, guys. Anyway, hopefully that'll wrap everything up, and I'll see you guys later. This has been Last Braid, signing off.